busting. Many brothers I be sparking and rusting, man, like inside the dark, call me Bill Snatcher. Just a brother for the rapture. I hang live, holding on strong, hard to capture. Extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a convict and start killing. It's manifested. The God's work like appliances, dealing in my sacred life.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another discussion for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, the anime. And I gotta say this right here, if you're not caught up with the last few Boruto anime episodes, I highly recommend watching those episodes before looking at this video, or at the very least, finding out what actually takes place in the actual anime, because I think we need to have a conversation about what I definitely think is going to be a huge possibility, which is Kawaki versus Iwabe in the Boruto anime. And the reason why I think that we need to have this conversation is when you jump ahead a little bit in the Boruto timeline. So I'm not going to go into spoilers, so this is safe for anime only, but there's a little bit of built-in room for potential filler that can take place when Kawaki is staying inside of Konoha before certain events actually start taking place. It looks like the anime is going to start rolling into the major stuff that happens in the manga, but one thing that we are seeing is the fact that they're building up other characters on the side and they're introducing smaller subplots in order to fill in some of the gaps that we have in the actual anime. And I think that they're sitting on a potential gold mine right here with the whole interaction of Kawaki and with Iwabe, because there's a little bit of time in there where the members of Boruto's generation, they actually get the opportunity to meet with Kawaki, and a lot of this stuff takes place off screen. And because Dinky and Iwabe are two characters that tend to kind of be around, if I'm not mistaken, Metal Lee was actually there in the manga, and since they're on Metal Lee's team, I think the anime would draw the interaction based on Iwabe's infatuation with the 7th Hokage and based on how Kawaki feels about the 7th Hokage. You got a little bit of room there for a little bit of actual back and forth with them as far as conflict. Now, the other thing you have is obviously you have the whole Iwabe is Kawaki theories that were running around back in 2017 that never seemed to actually go away up until the point when Kawaki actually appeared in the actual Boruto manga for the first time. But the fact is that we're in a situation where I know that they're aware of some of those crazy ass theories that actually took place. A lot of these modern day manga now, they're little passing references to YouTube videos, and they're little passing references. They'll make jokes about the stuff and Dragon Ball, they call it GodTube, and Eden Zero. Rebecca is the main character, Eden Zero, and she goes through and she records stuff for her YouTube channel. Like little small stuff like that. She didn't call it a YouTube channel, but little small stuff like that lets you know that on a certain level they're aware of some of the crazy stuff people say in their fandom. This would be a good way to actually poke fun at the whole thing of Iwabe is Kawaki theory that was kind of floating around for a good 2 years. And I think that when you look at the actual matchups, don't get me wrong, Kawaki absolutely stomps. Kawaki doesn't even have to go into using the Karma Seal ability. He can just rely on the parts of his body that are actual ninja tech in order to get the edge on him. But I think this would be a good way to actually start building up the character of Iwabe, because we know how freakishly strong Kawaki is, and so this will give you a good opportunity to start gauging where Iwabe is in terms of physical strength. He's a character that got introduced with a lot of potential. He was slapping around Boruto, and it was made very clear early on that Boruto was a prodigy. And so for Iwabe to start handing Boruto really the first L that he took in the entire series, that actually said a lot for the actual potential. The guy was using Earth Release, and he was an academy student. Like, that's absolutely freaking insane. Changing chakra nature is not something that Genin are supposed to be able to use, let alone academy students. So I thought that, you know, they start off on a good foot with the character Iwabe, and I think that you can play it up a little bit, especially given the fact that Kawaki is Naruto's student. That's something that, you know, Iwabe would have wanted. I mean, if you got to choose between Udon being your teacher and Naruto being your teacher, which one would you choose? I think it's a no-brainer. Now, the other parts of the actual fight that you could actually see there is, I think that having Kawaki actually go up against somebody using changing chakra nature, I think that could be something that actually works very well, because you have to remember, during the sparring match with Boruto and Kawaki, Kawaki never had to counter any changing chakra nature when he was actually fighting. He knows Boruto has stuff like lightning release, but earth release is one of those jutsu that's very tricky. If you use it in the right way, you can actually use the actual battlefield against the person that you're fighting with. So I think that could be a good opportunity to actually be used as a way to actually start pushing Kawaki even further into his training with Naruto. Now, another aspect there is Kawaki would also be able to use this ninja tech body in order to make that huge blade that is able to shoot out of his actual arm. And so I think that when you look at that and you look at that huge boulder, that sledgehammer that Iwabe is able to make out of earth release, and when you see those two clash like that, that could be a good opportunity to actually show you how strong and how durable that actual blade is right there. I've still seen some people a little confused about how strong that actually is and whether or not that can be something that can be snapped. So I think that having Iwabe's sledgehammer kind of broken up like that, that'd be a good way to actually show it. I think this will also be a good way to actually start showing Iwabe using that staff and actually give him a pretty decent fight. Now, I'm not talking like a whole episode of that, but I do think that just kind of whetting the appetite on there. I mean, even if it's something as short as the sparring match that you had with Naruto and Boruto, just enough to wet the actual tongue before you dive even further into some stuff that is going to take place in the anime when they start adapting the manga, that could be something that actually works here during that little bit of downtime that we're going to get here. I think based on how the actual series is paced, it's not going to be extremely long, but it is going to be something that is going to be something on the forefront of the actual anime. However, I want to know from you guys, what do you guys want to see in a potential Iwabe versus Kawaki battle? Do you think that Kawaki is just leagues above Iwabe as a character in terms of character development as well as character power and abilities? Do you think that Iwabe actually stands a chance? Or do you think that this dude's going to get steamrolled? And then if you are a fan of Iwabe, do you feel that Iwabe's character's been handled the best way in the Boruto anime? I'm going to say for myself, I think this is a character that had a lot of potential and ultimately, and I'm not even trolling at this point, ultimately kind of went the route of 10-10, a character that when you look at the abilities, it's like, oh, she should be pretty freaking overpowered. And when you see her, she doesn't really do anything in the actual manga. That's part of why I do the jokes about Lady 10-10. But the thing with Iwabe had all that potential and never actually really lived up to any of it. So I'm hoping that once you get to the time skip, they do something with Iwabe's character. And I think that this would be a good way for the anime to start the process of actually fixing the character. But so always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.